The nostalgia hit me when I saw the Xperia X10, Sony Ericsson's first Android phone, released in 2010, and compared it to my latest compact flagship, the Xperia 5 Mark V. I kinda wish they had stuck with X10 naming, then we would have the X24 by now, instead of Xperia 1 Mark V, where the 5 is written like the Roman numeral V. Anyways, my journey with Xperia began with the Xperia X10 and its mini sibling, the X10 Mini Pro. The Xperia phones before X10 were running Windows, while the X10 was the first Xperia Android phone. The phone featured a large screen for its time, and the Mini Pro had a full slide-out keyboard, a dream for texters. Back then, you used your phone for its intended purposes, calling and texting friends and family, and having a keyboard was a big deal and made typing much faster. The X10 Mini became really popular as other smartphones were much larger and not pocket-friendly. Both devices were released in 2010. Now that I'm using the Xperia X10 Mini keyboard, I kind of appreciate how far the multi-touch keyboards have got. The Xperia X10's 8.1 megapixel camera was revolutionary for its time, featuring an automatic face recognition system. It could even recognize faces in your phone gallery and link them to your contacts. The 4-inch touchscreen with a resolution of 854 by 480 was considered large at its time. In fact, in 2010, GSM Arena reported the Xperia X10 is definitely not a compact phone. For comparison, here is Sony's latest compact flagship. Not so compact anymore. Sony had a poor launch for X10, releasing the phone in Q1 2010 with outdated Android 1.6 and without multi-touch support, while competitors were already offering multi-touch and AMOLED screens. However, Sony's 8-megapixel camera with auto-face detection was unmatched, and the iPhone 3G wasn't even close. Let me know if you had one of these beasts in the comment section. In 2011, one might have expected Sony to release the Xperia 11 or X11, right? Wrong. The next flagship was the Xperia Arc, followed by Arc S, named for their curvy design. The Arc S was a step up from X10, featuring Sony's mobile Bravia engine for an enhanced viewing experience, 720p video recording, and XMR R sensor for improved low-light camera performance. My favorite feature of the camera was the smile detection. The camera would automatically detect a smile and capture the picture, like it did automatically with Quibi in this instance. It launched with Android 2.3 called Gingerbread and was one of the latest Xperia phones released under the Sony Ericsson brand. Then, in 2012, Sony released the Xperia S. It was the first Sony flagship phone that didn't include physical buttons, instead featuring a nice see-through plastic pod that acted like a touchscreen. Also, instead of clicking on them, you should have swiped. Arguably, it was the last phone from Sony that didn't look boring or mainstream. Although, for the first time, Xperia phones had a selfie camera. One notable aspect of the Xperia S is that even though you could remove the back, the battery was not removable anymore. A fun fact, Sony still sells the Xperia S for €299 on Amazon.de. If you have watched the video so far, I have a favor to ask. Making videos has expenses, including a subscription to Adobe Premiere. Currently, I have fewer than 1,000 subscribers, which means I cannot monetize the YouTube channel. If you enjoy this kind of content, it would mean a lot to me if you would consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you in advance. In 2012, Sony acquired Ericsson's share in the joint venture, leading to the establishment of Sony Mobile Communication. Rest in peace, Sony Ericsson. Sony launched the Xperia Z instead of expected S2. The Xperia Z was the first known device with HDR filming. It represented a significant leap for Sony in terms of design, features, and performance. It resembled a modern smartphone with no removable batteries and physical buttons. The back was made out of glass, something I disliked because it meant I had to be extra careful not to break it. The phone had IP55, IP57, water and dust resistant, a 5-inch Full HD display using Bravia Engine 2, a Snapdragon S4 Pro, and a 13.1 megapixel rear camera with Xperia RS sensor. If you stay in the video, you will see the pictures that I take with this phone and other Sony phones, and you realize this phone was a significant leap in Sony Xperia camera capability. It was the first phone to feature a battery stamina mode and offer 2 charging options, one under the cover and another accessible without removing the cover. The innovation in making this phone water and dust resistant was extraordinary for its time. After the Xperia Z, Sony released the Xperia Z1, then Z2, which we have here, followed by Z3, Z4, and finally Z5 Premium in 2015. Z5 is the first phone with 4K display. It was followed by the Xperia X Performance. Then when everybody expected the Xperia X2, Sony launched the Xperia XZ in 2016, further complicating the naming convention. The Xperia XZ, of which you can see the premium version released in 2017 here, was one of the best phones I've ever had, establishing Sony as a brand for photographers. It featured a fingerprint scanner on the power button, a 23 megapixel rear camera with Sony triple image sensing technology, including a movement capturing image sensor, a laser autofocus sensor for distance measurements, and a color accurate sensor, greatly enhancing photo quality, especially in low light conditions. The phone was also IP68 rating, meaning it was submersive in water. I still remember a friend showing off his phone by bringing it to a scuba diving training session, and it survived. My phone also survived being submerged in the ocean on my trip to Bali, while my friend's iPhone didn't. Additionally, it had noise cancellation capabilities, adaptive charging, and battery care to prevent overcharging. I was impressed when I used this phone again in 2024. The user interface is definitely smoother than most budget phones coming out these days and feels more premium. Then came the XZ2 with an ergonomically curved back, the first phone with 4K HDR video, followed by XZ3. Then in 2019, Sony changed their naming convention again, because you should never let your enemies know the name of your next phone, as Sun Tzu said in 320 BC. Sony started launching 2 lines of flagships, the Xperia 1 and a more compact version, the Xperia 5. They also have a Pro line that is launched from time to time. To make things even more confusing, they named the subsequent phones the Xperia 1 Mark II using the Roman numeral II, and the Xperia 5 II or Xperia 5 II. Like the original Xperia 1 and 5, they both had a 21:9 aspect ratio, a bold move by Sony to differentiate themselves from competitors. Xperia 1 had a 4K display, similar to Xperia Z5 Premium. The camera was developed in collaboration with the Sony Alpha department, and both phones had Photo Pro and Video Pro applications, with the interface resembling Alpha cameras. Sony stuck with the Xperia 1 and 5 convention, and now we are at the Xperia 5 1 Mark V and Xperia 5 Mark V, which is here with me. You can check the review for the Xperia 5 Mark V that is popping up in the video now. Sony phones are now targeting photographers and videographers, focusing on media creation and consumption. You probably noticed that I don't show the Xperia 5 often in this video. The reason is that I'm actually filming with it. What fascinates me about Sony phones is their build quality. Every single Sony phone that I had still worked to this day. I never had a broken screen or a dead battery, not even once. Even though the fingerprint scanner on my Xperia 5 II stopped and my Xperia XZ Premium overheats, it still functions. I'm excited to see what the future brings for Sony, and I'm curious if they will launch the Xperia 1 Mark VI or come up with a new, even crazier naming convention. One problem with the new naming convention is that not everyone can read Roman numerals. Let me know, what do you think? I really hope one day in 2030 we see the Xperia 1 Mark X, but I kind of think this wish won't age well. One thing that all the Sony phones had in common is the shutter button, headphone jack, removable SD card, and a gorgeous display. You can now check the photos that I take from Kirby from 2010, Xperia X10, all the way to Xperia 5 Mark V in 2023-2024. All the photos are really sharp and nice for their time, and I can say from Xperia Arc S forward, the photos are very acceptable. Let me know in the comments which Sony phone you had. Thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, please hit the like button and subscribe. And until the next one, bye!